so drunk. This club so packed, these girls so drunk. Got a model, got my money, and I start
Thank y'all very much to the Uche Rod Show. I'm your host, Mr. Uche Ernest Arai, and I hope y'all didn't mind jamming with me. All right. Today I'll be talking about a topic different from politics, as I do quite often. In my many years on this earth, and in my search for wisdom and knowledge and life itself, I've been fortunate to wear the hat of several people. Okay. In my earlier days, I've played the role and wore the hat of a waiter, bartender, restaurant manager, and I've done a little bit of cooking in a restaurant as well. Okay, now this experience I will trade back for nothing in the world, because it's one of the reasons why I'm sociable, as you can tell, and it helped me to develop my social skills, and I recommend it to anybody. If you could work 6 months, 1 year, 3 months as a waiter, I recommend it. Okay, teach you a lot about the restaurant industry and how to deal with people, complete strangers, help them have a good time, and in hopes they reward you accordingly. Okay. Now, the thing about that experience that I think it showed me was that a lot of people, when it comes to dealing with restaurants and restaurant etiquette, there's some discrepancies. Okay, there's some racial discrepancies as well. It's commonly known thing in the restaurant industry that black people don't tip very well. Okay, I'm sorry to say it, but it is a fact. And I'm going to explain to you why, and if you are a black person, what you can do to improve on that. Okay, this goes for bars as well. When you go to a bar, order a drink, like I said, black people don't tip very well. Okay, but this is for everybody, not just black people. On the issue of tipping, it's ironic that I believe 2 months ago, a young lady who was actually a pastor had the embarrassing thing happen to her. The bill that she tipped on and actually scratched out the tip and wrote, I guess, something that she considered to be a tip for the waiter was put online. Okay, there's a very active coalition of waiters out there, and it pretty much went viral. Okay, now I believe the lady, there was a gratuity added on the bill, and she scratched it out. Now, on the issue of gratuity, which is one main aspect of tipping that people like or don't like. All right, gratuity is usually when you go to a restaurant and you're a party of, usually it's 8 or more people. There's an automatic tip applied to the bill, because for that 1 hour, 2 hours, usually that you and your party of 12 was there, you most likely took up that waiter's whole section. All right. And for that 2.5 hours, that waiter could not wait on anybody else but you. If tipping was optionary at that point, you probably wouldn't tip. Okay. You may have felt like the waiter service was subpar, and it may have been. But the point is, tipping is how waiters make a living. All right. The restaurant industry falls under the entertainment industry of most states. And because of that, waiters are paid below minimum wage by the restaurant. Okay, so that fancy restaurant that you go to that has $30 a head PPA, which is price per average, does not mean that that waiter is going to be rich after you leave that restaurant, because that price for that menu has been dictated by the owners of the restaurant, and they keep all of that. Okay, the waiter should be tipped by you on a percentage of what your bill is, and that's what they keep. And they don't even get to keep all of that, because most restaurants have waiters pay what's called a tip out. Waiters, in a way, to a restaurant are looked at as independent contractors, although they're not. It's like a barber who rents his booth, and at the end of the week pays the owner of the barbershop booth rental fee. Waiters, in a way, rent their 4 tables or 5 tables that's in their section, and at the end of that night, they pay the restaurant on average 3.5% of their tips. Okay, so if you're coming into that waiter section and you're putting them in the negative, because on your $40, on your $44 bill, right? The standard right now is 18% is what you're supposed to tip. Okay, that comes out to somewhere around $8. All right. Now, That's what you're supposed to tip. This is what, if every table did that, would have that waiter at least going home with a decent earning for that day. Okay? It's funny, right? Just to digress a little bit. In France, waiters actually make a decent living, because in France and the European countries, it's up there with a decent with a decent job. Okay, waiters in France make an average of about $50,000 a year, make 45 to 50. Here in America, waiters make anywhere from under $30,000 a year. All right, it ain't something that you can feed your family off of as a primary form of employment. Okay, that's why it's usually good for college students, people trying to get away from paying child support, because you actually get something to take home, and things of that nature. As a second job or third job, whatever, it's usually a decent in that regard, supplement your primary income. So if you go into the restaurant, sit in that waiter section, and you're in the party of 12, and there's gratuity added to the bill, and you act the dang fool. Why they making me tip? What's wrong with this guy? His service wasn't all that. How they gonna make me tip? Well, ma'am, sir, they making you tip because that's how this person earns a living. All right. So it's unfortunate you feel like they're making you tip, but if it was up to you, instead of leaving them an $8 tip, oh no, I'm sorry, a $6 would be the average on a $40 tab. Calculated 18% of $40. Okay, instead of leaving them a $6 and something change tip, you probably would have left them $3 or $2, which actually would leave them in a deficit. Because remember, I told you they have to pay 3% of that sale to you, to the restaurant, for the busser and the hostess and things of that nature. Okay, now the racial aspect of tipping. All right, my experience during my table waiting days and bartending days was that on average, black people did not tip very well. I kind of attested that to how they were raised, okay? And it's an average that, when you look at the income demographic in the United States, black people are not on the higher end of that, okay? Caucasians are. So for those that for a longer period of time have gone out to eat with their families to nice restaurants or decent restaurants, they have observed their parents or parent tip well, okay? A lot of minorities may have not experienced the outing or the usual weekly outing until they themselves become professionals or are college students and do it occasionally, and may think that $2 is enough, even if their bill is $100. Okay, even if their bill is $100, $2 is enough. No, sir, that is not enough. You are tipping that waiter below 5%. Okay, that's not right, and that's why waiters, when they see a large party of black people, you see that face like, damn, I know they're gonna run me around and they're not gonna tip me very well. We need to change that impression. Okay, if you go to a buffet, I don't care if you go to a buffet, IHOP, or a nice restaurant, if your bill is $50, all right, don't leave that waiter no less than $8. Do not do it. Okay, do not leave them less than $8. You need to tip them more than that, because waiters remember good tippers. And it's just like a strip club. It's funny, right? People will go to a strip club and make it rain like they've lost all their mind. Okay, but they'll go to the place where they're getting something they're going to put in their body and feel the need to not tip well. That's not a good thing, because they're going to remember you. And I'm not saying that I know of waiters who did things to people's food and all this and all that. I'm not going to say that. I'm not even going to say that I was one of those people. Okay, what I will say is that it bodes you well to treat the person that is giving you something that you're going to be putting in your mouth. It bodes you well to treat that person well. Treat them right. Treat them more than right. It's like talking shit to your doctor and knowing that he's about to put you out and dig all up in your guts, and you're going to trust him to not leave a scalpel in there on purpose, or to make sure he treated you the same way he would treat a VIP customer. It's the same thing. He's going to treat you based on how you treat him. Okay, so if you're gonna be nice to your doctor, who's gonna help you when you get sick, be nice to your waiter, who probably is gonna make sure you don't get sick by making sure something doesn't fall in your food, or they don't put something in your food. So it's just, I'm joking about it, but it's serious, because some people make a living off of this and things of that nature, and it's a temporary, is often a temporary a form of employment. Okay, so when you go to your restaurant, Treat your waiter well. Understand that gratuity is not there to punish you. It's to help this person that you've taken up their form of income for the last 3 hours, and it's to make sure that they at least got something decent out of it. And another thing, don't sit at a restaurant table for 3-4 hours knowing that you've already eaten and you're not going to tip again. If you do that, tip $2 for every extra hour you sit at that bar stool or you sit at that table, because they're not making any income while you're sitting there not ordering any additional food, which is going to increase your bill and increase the total that you should be tipping. So tip extra while you're there. If tip another $2, another $5 for every hour you're there. That's a fair thing to do. I'm telling you, if you do that to your server or your waiter or your waitress, they will remember you, they will love you, and every time you come in there, instead of looking like this, they're gonna look like this. Hey! Thank y'all very much for tuning to the Uche Ora Show. I'm your host, Mr. Uche Ernest Ora, on this restaurant etiquette.